Welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And Dr. Lopkin, you get to be a certain age and, you think you've seen it all. I was genuinely in shock last night. I call it the political Hindenburg, reflecting on that famous news clip, "Oh, the Humanity." It was essentially 90 minutes. In 90 minutes, Uncle Joe torpedoed his campaign, correct?
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. I went into the debate last night with some preconceived notions. My first assumption, quite frankly, was, well, this is going to be 90 minutes of my life I'll never get back. I
Yeah, I
expected,
got you. Yep.
I expected Trump supporters would leave the debate still supporting Trump. Biden supporters would leave the debate still supporting Biden's. Undecided voters would still be undecided because I expected a big nothing. And oh my God, Trump supporters are obviously elated at the results of the
Jumping
debate.
jacks. How do you like that?
I
Backflips.
never expected Biden to do this badly. I expected to see a slow deterioration over the course of the 90 minutes, and I think most people expected that. He started deteriorating less than 10 minutes into the debate when he lost track of his train of thought and actually started mumbling and saying gibberish that he actually finished one of his answers with, "We beat Medicare."
Yep, we beaten Medicare. And I think, just real quick, we talk about JFK with
Yep.
Benson, and I think it was 88. I believe not quite as powerful, but pretty close, was when Uncle Joe was mumbling and bumbling, and Trump, who was very restrained. I have to give him credit. It wasn't just that Uncle Joe flamed out. Trump was very reserved, very measured. The contrast, there was nothing even close, okay? But when Uncle Joe is mumbling and bumbling, and Trump just casually turns to the camera and says, "I don't know what he said. I'm not sure he knew what he just said." That was
Yeah,
not good.
no, it was not good. It was an embarrassment. I mean, you looked at Joe Biden at certain points and went, how is this person running for office? The
Or
one
running the country.
well,
That's
yeah,
even
the
scarier.
one moment that actually scared me was when Trump was talking about the women who over the last 2 weeks had been murdered by illegal immigrants. And Biden had a look on his face like he had never heard of this. He had no idea what was going on.
Well, you have a really good point, Dr. Lopkin. I think, how do you like this one? I love your insight on this. I think Biden, if you heard it on the radio, you would think Biden had a horrible, horrible day, 90 minutes. But watch it. What he didn't say might have been worse. That stare, the blank look, like the human corpse. What do you think? I think that might have been actually worse than what he said.
Yes, it absolutely was. He would blank out while Trump was talking. And in some cases, he blanked out while he was talking. The look on his face, the absolute confusion, it showed that he was not coherent. It actually proved everything the White House has been trying to deny. And I said this to you before we went on the air. I actually feel sorry for Corinne Jean Pierre, who, because of her orders from the president and from the White House staff, she has spent the last 2 weeks talking about how, oh, these clips are taken out of context and you don't see the whole picture. Well, now the entire country saw the whole picture for 90 minutes. And it
Okay, yes, but
absolutely
yeah, go ahead.
shows.
Sorry.
It absolutely shows that he is not mentally capable.
100%. But also reflect on this. Yeah, everyone in politics lies. They, bend the truth. I'm talking about handlers. But we were not, we were basically hoodwinked by the mainstream media, by his handlers. When do you cross a line, Dr. Lopkin, of when you're doing things strategically that are within the margins, and then when do you cross the line of being anti-American? These people lied. The media knew he was a shill of what anyone was saying he was. They were telling us that he does trigonometry and runs the country in the same moment. All lies. I blame Jill. I think she's always been an opportunist. It took her like 8 times to say yes to the marriage proposal. It's all about power to her and the operatives. We were directly lied to, and now the emperor has no clothes. Your comments on that?
Yeah, I think, this is not unprecedented because if you go back in history, it may seem hard to believe now, but during the 30s and 40s, most of America was unaware that FDR had polio and that he was confined to a wheelchair because the media helped cover that up. They would show him, they would prop him up, before pictures were taken. So this is not unprecedented. What makes it scarier now is that with FDR, it was just about his body. He was
There you
still
go.
he was still mentally on the ball. He was still capable of doing his job. This shows that Biden is not capable of doing the job. He's not all there. And that makes it so much worse. So, again, while it's not unprecedented, the damage done in this case is astronomically increased.
Okay, but the one is optics. JFK had so many affairs, he made Mick Jagger look like a Cub Scout. That's who really gives a you know what, okay? Yeah, okay, he's in a wheelchair. That's optics. But he was a brilliant man. I'm not saying I agree with all his policies, but he was a great president. No ifs, ands, or buts. But to your point, I think this crosses the line. This is much bigger than a wheelchair or affairs with bimbos. This is about the nuclear codes. This is being completely misled by the people that are supposed to be the third rail. They let America down. It's gross. Incompetency is a nice word. Anti-Americanism definitely comes into my mind. Putting your own power, your own agenda ahead of the good of the American people and the world. This guy has no business. I heard a comedian. He was funny. He goes, if you had Uncle Joe at a drive-up window, you'd pull over and make sure before you left the facility that your order is intact. And he's got the nuclear code, Dr. Lopkin.
Yeah, this changed the game because while it didn't affect Trump supporters at all, they went into this, believing in their candidate and they're still backing him. It shook the Democratic Party to its core. You actually had strategists from the Democratic Party during the debate start to talk to people about, wait a minute, can we actually keep him on the ballot? Do we have an option to remove him? You actually had people who believed in Biden hook, line, and sinker, questioning for the first time, not just could he run, but I've actually heard diehard liberals finally come around and say, wait a minute, who's running the country?
There
Because
you go.
it clearly
but it gets
isn't
to the
Biden.
point, the third rail, these people need to wake up. I knew it. You knew it. The New York Times, the Wall Street Journal was the first, and everyone said, oh, what was it, fake, whatever they call it, fake shook or whatever, with the don't believe your lying eyes. The 38 sources were all bullshit, you know what.
Yep.
No, there is going to be, this has bigger repercussions and ramifications than just Uncle Joe. This, to your point, goes to the core of the Democratic Party. There will be more than soul searching, correct, Dr. Lopkin? There's going to be heads a rolling.
I certainly hope so. But we are already seeing some of the diehard liberals, even as soon as 5 minutes and 10 minutes after the debate, double down on their delusions. You had in the spin room, and by the way, it absolutely cracks me up that Fox, CNN, and MSNBC all named their post-debate coverage the spin room. They're not even pretending that they're doing real analysis. They're spinning it, they're all spinning it to their point of view. But in the MSNBC spin room, you had within 10 minutes of the debate ending, Joy Reid defending Joe Biden, yelling about the fact that Trump lied about saying that he never said Nazis were good people, when Snopes.com literally earlier this week debunked that claim. And yet Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow were clinging to it. So you still
Okay, but that hurts, Dr. Lopkin. I'm sorry. I really truly believe that there is a choice to be made. I think for financial survival, by the way. I think CNN, I think the moderators, I'm sorry, did a good job, better than Chris Wallace, thanks to his father's the way he got the job. But anyway, I think it just further basically casts doubt on MSNBC. When you have after the debate, they're trying to defend the undefendable. It's like you said this years ago. It's not news; it's entertainment. Rachel Maddow, the whole shtick is over.
Yeah, and people are now starting to see how bad it's get. CNN actually, if I have to name a winner in the debate, it's actually not Donald Trump. There were two winners that came out of last night's debate, and one of them was CNN, because
no doubt
the moderators did an amazing job. They have been praised by people on both sides of the aisle for being fair and unbiased. They let the candidates talk. Basically, what CNN did was give Donald Trump and Joe Biden some rope. And Donald Trump chose to put the rope down. Joe Biden chose to hang himself with it. And based on some of the early post debate polls, the other winner in all of this is RFK Jr., because people are now saying, one, he should have been on that stage. We should have heard from him. And two, Biden is now bleeding support, but a lot of that support still isn't going to go to Donald Trump. Well, that makes RFK the beneficiary.
Okay, I agree with that, but I believe that Trump still did win. I think that if the election was held right now, it would be a Reagan-esque landslide. I believe if he gets only 2% of those that were uncommitted, it's a landslide. Okay, he already is in a landslide. So I believe Donald Trump was a winner. I think RFK was definitely a winner. And one of the most salient points he made after the debate is, this is what you get, the Democratic Party. When you stop people, you stop a primary. Now it's at the 11th hour. This is RFK, not me.
Yep.
This is the 11th hour, and this is what you get. I think it was more than poignant.
Yeah, he was absolutely right. And by the way, you were saying if Trump gets 2% of the undecided, then it's a landslide. It's actually not even 2%. There is a new election model that has come out from the founder of 538. Now, he's no longer with 538, but
Is that Nate Silver?
yes, Nate Silver.
Yes.
According to
75% or something?
66%.
Okay.
But that assumes that Trump gets 1.4% of the undecideds. The model says that he has a 66% chance of winning this election because even if he loses the popular vote, his vote is focused on battleground states and in where he will win the electoral college, even if he loses the popular vote.
And interesting enough, that survey, the Nate Silver analysis, was done pre-debate.
Yes.
There's no way that debate did not it result at least in a 2-point swing. They had Quinnipiac. Trump was up by about 6. There's no way. Anyone that watched that debate, unless you're like drinking MSNBC Kool-Aid, no way. I had liberals call me, my liberal friend, and said, game over.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of liberals go, that's it, I cannot vote for Biden. Now, a lot of them are not saying they will vote for Trump. A lot of them will stay home. A lot of them will support RFK. But the 538 model, which was really interesting because it was based on 10 polls. Now, there are a lot more than 10 polls. I don't know how they chose these 10, but the 10 they chose, 4 of them had Trump and Biden in a dead heat, 50-50. The other 6 had Trump winning, but within the margin of error. Well, when you're that close, and I believe the difference in the Nate Silver and the 538 models is that 538 is focusing on the popular vote, where Nate Silver took the electoral college into account. But when you're talking about 10 polls that are all within the margin of error, and you get a debate performance this bad, and let's not forget, Joe Biden is the one that called for the debate. He is the one that set the circumstances and demanded these rules for the debate. And he still...
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah.
Isn't it ironic, though, Dr. Lopkin, that he went on a show, Howard Stern? I used to listen to him in the heyday. His listenership, if you put a gun to my head, 100,000. It's not a lot, okay? So basically a meaningless interview, okay? So sometimes be careful what you wish for, because the upside to his interview was nothing, 0, okay? The downside was his election. There you go. Because in his cockiness, he lost his talking points, and I'm sure his handlers, his operatives are going, oh, no. When he agreed, he could not, once he did that, he could not back out. And they sued for the best rules, hoping against hope that Trump would not agree to it. Trump did, and the rest, as they say, is history. Correct?
That was exactly their game plan. They fully expected, with all of the restrictions that they put on the debate, they expected Trump to say, no, I'm not going to play by your rules. I'm not doing this. And he surprised them and called their bluff. And,
But it was Biden that said, I'll debate needlessly on a needless show by once funny guy, Howard Stern, who's now gone Meshuggah. He was totally an unnecessary blunder.
It was. He did not need to make that challenge. This is the Joe Biden that we saw at the end of the debate last night. He was the angry, ranting, he thinks he's a tough guy. He thinks he has the same delusions about himself that De Niro does.
Yes,
but
100%.
But we also have to remember that prior to this debate, he spent a week out of the public eye. He was not under the stress of the day-to-day workings of being president for a week and still could not manage 90 minutes of coherence. Again, he started losing it within the first 10 minutes. And something that I found
Actually,
very,
Dana Perino got her phone was getting bombed basically by before 9 o'clock. Democratic operatives were texting if this was a fight, they'd call and they'd throw in the towel.
yeah, there was something that I found interesting prior to the debate. Richard Fowler, who is a liberal pundit on Fox,
Mm-hmm.
was defending Joe Biden's decision to take a week to prep. And he did some research and said, this is not unprecedented. Other candidates have taken a week off of the campaign trail to prep for the debate. And the two that most recent that he named that did this were Mitt Romney and Hillary Clinton. Well,
Both screwed up.
what do all three of these people have in common? They all lost their debates.
Well, wait a second, Dr. Locke. We'll go back to when you were in college. Remember overstudying? It happens. I mean, especially with JoJo's mental state. You feed all these stuff into his head. I knew before the debate, I was questioning, how is he going to retain all that stuff? It's just mumbly gumbly gook at that point in Joe's brain. It's actually worse. And I completely disagree with the strategy because it ramped up expectations. The leaks coming out were like, yes, he's doing this and that. It's embarrassing. If he just went on his usual schedule, at least you could make it out. How does that sound? It says he's been so busy that the debate was second tier to him. Whatever. At least he had some recourse.
Yeah, he has no recourse in this case. There is no excuse for this kind of a performance. And in fact, one of the local politicians here in Connecticut, about 15 minutes or so into the debate, posted on social media, it sounds like he's trying to regurgitate every fact that they crammed into his head over the past week.
Yes.
And that's very possible that that's what was happening. Clearly, he does not have the mental faculties to memorize all of these facts. I mean, again, the fact checkers during the debate were silent, but afterwards they went through. And yes, Trump did tell lies. He did exaggerate what he did, but not as badly as Biden did. And what was really amazing is that there were several instances where Trump said something at the debate, and immediately after, Biden lied about what Trump just said, as though we didn't just hear what he said out of his own mouth.
Yes. Now, let's speak about going forward. There's talk about Newsom, Michelle. Let's first of all, Dr. Lockton, give us what you say are the odds of Uncle Joe bowing out.
I honestly think the odds are very slim. And in fact, I've actually heard this from several high-level Democratic strategists. They don't believe they're going to be able to convince him to step down because, again, and this is part of the dementia, he does not see how badly he's doing. He posted on, his campaign posted on social media, he made comments this morning that if you watch the video, he thinks he won the debate. So they're not going to be able to convince him. And I think Jill Biden is the bigger problem because she certainly doesn't want to leave the White House. She's the one behind him staying in. And if you saw the clip from the watch party last night, Jill was telling him, "You did so well. You answered every question." It's like she's treating him like a 4-year-old that needs positive reinforcement. And there's no reason to believe she's going to stop. So as long as she's telling him how well he's doing, he's going to believe this and say, "No, I beat him before. I can beat him again. I don't know what you're talking about. I did great at the debate." He's completely
Will there be
unaware of.
another debate?
I don't know. I think if
I don't
there's
know either.
I think if there isn't, the Democrats are done. They need,
I think they're done anyway.
if they can't get him out and they don't have a debate, that's a signal to the country that they've thrown in the towel. They're basically telling the American voter, do not vote for Joe Biden. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think come hell or high water, they will find some way to prop him up long enough because they don't want to admit that they have to throw in the towel. And honestly, I don't think they should replace him on the ticket. I think for the good of the Democratic Party, they should leave him on the ticket, take the loss, take the money that the DNC has been raising, use it, funnel that to congressional races, to senatorial races. Again, chalk up the loss of the White House and use the next 2 years to rebuild the party in a more moderate image. You're already seeing the American voter and the Democratic voters start to swing in the primaries to more moderate candidates. The party needs to follow that.
Is the AOC Bernie shtick over? I believe it is. We talked about this before the show. Then in 2020, AOC and Bernie the Jew hater had a rally in New York and drew almost 20,000 people. Last week with Bowman, another anti-Semite, they had a rally. AOC was, I don't know what the hell. The thing about AOC that cracks me up, she has this like she's ghetto. She's not ghetto. Her father was an architect. She went to the most expensive college on the planet.
Yeah.
Boston University. Stop with the crap, all right? You're not from the ghetto, all right? But what is the real point? The real point is they had 200 people. You could have Shakespeare in the park at Central Park and draw 300 people.
Well, even
I think the shtick is over.
Even more than that, they only drew 200 people. It wasn't just Bernie Sanders and AOC at this rally. It was Cardi B. It was Jamal Bowman, and combined they couldn't draw an audience. You're starting to see this all over the country. Bowman he was the first squad member to lose his primary. He lost it by double digits. And rather than conceding, he threw a temper tantrum, blaming AIPAC for brainwashing his constituents. They didn't have
Why not blame the Jews? Doesn't that go back to like 5,000 years of history?
Well, that's essentially what he was doing.
Yeah, of course.
Now, in all fairness, Bowman's district changed between 2020 and now because of the census. There was redistricting. A large part of his constituency, which was the Bronx, is no longer in his district. And who is in his district? Westchester County, which has the largest constituency of Jews in New York.
There you go.
His anti-Semitism backfired majorly. But now, so he's gone. you see Cori Bush is
A
down
genius.
22 points in some polls in her primary. You have Ilhan Omar, who is barely hanging on. And let's just say Bowman had a point, and the money that AIPAC put into the campaign actually did make a difference. They're doing the same thing to Cori Bush. They're probably going to be doing the same thing to Ilhan Omar. So there is a very strong possibility that all three of them will not go to a general election. So you're seeing the shift in the Democratic Party. And you and I have disagreed about this on the air in the past, where I still say there are moderate Democrats out there, and you've said, no, they're gone, they're dead. George Latimer, who beat Bowman, is a moderate Democrat. And you are now seeing these lower level moderate Democrats who have been around the country at the local level now stepping up saying, we need to fix the national party.
Did AOC, Squad, Bernie, who started all the shit, I think they went a bridge too far. How do you like that? They got enamored, they got drunk on their power. Bernie never worked a day until he was 40 and mayor of a town in Vermont, whatever. I think they just went a bridge too far. I think regular Americans, even liberal Americans, okay, this is too much.
It was more than just going a bridge. It was more than just going a bridge too far. The fact that they were able to take power at all is actually what did them in, because we saw the policies that they've been pushing actually get implemented. And while some of these policies in theory sound like great ideas, when you put them into practice, they were disastrous for the American people. And the American people see this. They go, wait a minute. I can't afford groceries this week because of your policies. I want to replace my car. I can't do it because everything is so expensive. My energy bill has gone through the roof because you got rid of so much of our energy independence. You have workers from the Keystone Pipeline that were fired because Biden got rid of the pipeline construction on day one of his administration, that 3.5 years later are still out of work.
You know what Amtrak Joe said when he signed that order? Mr. Compassion Lunch Pail Joe. Yep. He said they'll get another job. Like, how? No, there are no $100,000 jobs building pipelines. Genius. Yes.
No,
I think it's really good.
He had said specifically, he said they will be able to get jobs in green energy. Well, guess what? Mm-hmm. None of those green energy jobs have materialized yet. So how do you look someone
they've blown up? Yeah, they've blown up. If you look at reports, dealerships, car dealerships are hemorrhaging over EVs. General Motors is hemorrhaging over electric vehicles. Basically, a marketing concept. Early adapters, they were selling EVs beyond sticker price, making a lot of money. Those early adapters, opinion leaders, so to speak, they've already purchased the car. No one's buying EVs.
Well,
so they're stuck.
Not only is no one buying EVs, but the consumer satisfaction on these EVs are plummeting. People don't like the EVs they've already bought. So what you're seeing now is, how do left-wing politicians look someone in the eye and say, yes, we know we put you out of a job, but it's for the good. It's for the good of the planet, and it's not just
for the team.
And it's not just green jobs, because AOC got rid of the proposed Amazon jobs in her district. And you're
Which
seeing
give health care, by the way, which give health care.
right, those
Let
were
you know. There you go.
amazing. These were amazing jobs. You're not talking about janitorial jobs. These were six-figure jobs that were going to be paying good, have good benefits, good salaries, and she blocked them. And you're
Well, do you know
seeing now,
why though?
even though AOC won her primary, she won by a lot less than she has in the past.
Yeah, I think the ship has sailed for it. It couldn't happen to nicer people. They're big egotists. You look at AOC basically destroying Amazon's move into her district, something she should have been voted out for. But anyway, there's another reason. You get AOC, Bernie. I'm sure you checked into, if you checked into, spoiled brat. AOC was a spoiled brat. Went to BU. I have no idea what she studied because she's dumber than rocks, and she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't know what it is to get a job. I mean, so it's a bunch of, like we said, years. We said it for years. Do as I say, not as I do.
You know,
Bernie's
it's
never been richer.
in AOC's case, it's even worse than that because she actually studied economics and she
There you
does
go.
not understand economics. She should never have been allowed to graduate, never mind graduate cum laude, which she did. She thought because New York was giving tax breaks to Amazon, she actually believed, and she said this herself, that New York was going to be paying Amazon for these jobs. And that's not how tax breaks work.
Well, I'm sorry to say, BU is a pay-to-play school. There's many of them. Cum laude, you have to be kidding me. I wouldn't let her change my oil. So, as we conclude, what are your big takeaways, Dr. Eric E. Lopkin?
The big takeaway is the White House can no longer claim that Biden is a dynamo behind closed doors. The country has seen the real Joe Biden. The Democrats are running scared. And I think if they're smart, they will take this as an opportunity to say, okay, you know what? People have been saying for quite a while, we didn't leave the Democratic Party, the Democratic Party left us. We need to refocus on those voters who feel we abandoned them. We'll lose the presidential election, but we'll rebuild the party stronger.
Is it over for Obama? I believe his legacy. He's
Oh,
scared to death of it.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Obama's legacy is gone. Biden was
Done.
Obama's last chance to to save the Obama legacy. And let's be clear, this came out this week. As concerned about his legacy, and Obama has been saying this publicly, that he wants Biden to win another election because he wants his legacy protected. But as much as he wants to protect his legacy, it's not enough to get Michelle Obama to actually campaign for Joe Biden. The Obamas and the Bidens hate each other so much.
Hate each other.
Michelle has refused to campaign for Joe Biden, even if it will protect her husband's legacy.
And part of the reason is the way he treated his Hunter's kid, his grandkid.
Yes.
That's part of it. Not the only reason, but a reason. How heartless he was, Uncle Joe.
Yeah, because she saw firsthand that Lunch Pail Joe is a myth. He's not compassionate. He's not this, average Joe. And in fact, realistically, if you look back on Joe Biden's career, for most of it, he was very conservative. He championed everything he's fighting against now. And
Because he never had a true ideology. He was he was a political apparatchik from the beginning.
I think early. No, I'm going to disagree with you. Early in his career, he did have an ideology, And that's the ideology that pushed the 1990s crime bill that backfired on him. It was a fairly conservative ideology, and it also goes to show how far he's deteriorated, that he's not calling the shots anymore. I think that's what that indicates. That
Actually, I'll give you that one, Dr. Eric E. Lopkin. When you're right, you're right. I believe that's true. I have thought about that myself as well. That he is, I think the level of blown outness, obviously there's no word, of Biden is so severe. Again, we got a glimpse of it, but I think that was, how do you like this, Dr. Lockwood? That was a good glimpse. That is him probably operating on most cylinders. Last night, I'm dead serious.
yeah, well, again, he
Oh,
took
I'm
a
dead serious
week.
about
He
that.
took a week off to prepare for this 90 minutes. He did not do any public appearances. And I don't care how much you're cramming for a test. If you're studying over a week, you're taking breaks. You're taking time to relax and let things settle in. So even with all of that, he still couldn't get more than 10 minutes into the debate. So, yes, I think, and let's face it, if you watch the debate, and I mean the whole debate, one, you saw him walk out onto the stage, and he did not confidently stride out like Trump did. He was very tentative walking out, but it wasn't terrible. By the
No,
end of the 90
walking
minutes,
away was bad.
yes, by the end
90
of the
minutes
90
later was,
minutes, Jill Biden had to come up on stage to lead him off because he was incapable of walking off under his own power. That's how bad he's gotten.
Dr. Lopkin, as we're doing this, I don't know if you have some information coming your way, but I'm looking at Supreme Court issues ruling on January 6th charges. Do you have anything on that?
Oh, I have not seen anything on the January 6th charges. I have seen
It just
this.
came over on Fox that it has, yes, the one about the Chevron case has already
Yes,
done that.
yes,
Obstruction law doesn't apply to January 6th. That's what it
okay.
says.
That is a big win for the Trump administration. So that is going
Okay.
to that is
That's
going
a
to
fact. I'm looking
yes,
at it with my own eyes.
that is going to affect the court cases going forward, which was one of the things Biden was counting on, was convicting Trump as many times as possible. The other case that the Supreme Court has just ruled on is, it's known as the Chevron case, but
Yes.
they have blocked regulatory agencies from creating these onerous rules. The rules have to be made by Congress, not by these federal agencies. That is going to affect Biden's student loan forgiveness. It's going to pull back most, if not all, of Biden's proposed environmental changes, because none of that went through Congress. So everything that Biden claimed last night as an accomplishment just went out the window.
So remember, there's a show, Good Week, Bad Week. Very bad week for Lunch Pail Joe, and you got to say it was a rock star week for Trump.
Yeah, Trump had.
You can't have a better week.
This was probably his best week ever, because aside from the debates, aside from the new Supreme Court rulings that just came down, it was also revealed that since the conviction, Donald Trump has closed the fundraising gap. They were talking for months and months about how the DNC and Biden were out fundraising Trump. That's no longer the case. They can't outspend Trump anymore. So they are going to have to fight this tooth and nail, and they're going to have to do it with a mentally crippled candidate.
last thing before you leave, this is your last comment. So there's two rallies. Biden has a rally, I believe it's in North Carolina at 12:30. Yeah, North Carolina. And Trump has one in Virginia, which is tied, by the way. I think that's not going to be tied any longer. That's my humble opinion. Is that going to be anything you can read from that? I think it's going to speak volumes, actually. I think Uncle Joe might have like 10 people. And I believe that, again, best week ever for Trump, going to have thousands.
Well, I think Joe will have a small turnout. I don't think that has anything to do with the debate performance. He's been having slow turnouts for months. People are not showing up to see him. And the few events, which were all fundraisers, where they did draw a crowd, he was there with celebrities. He was there with Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. So he has had to bring in other people in order to draw a crowd. So I don't think you're going to see much of a crowd for him in Georgia. I think Trump is going to flip Georgia. I think he will probably flip Virginia. And I think the debate is going to be most closely watched in these battleground states that are within the margin of error. Because, again, even if these folks decide, I can't stand Trump, I don't want him as president, I'm not voting for him, they're also not going to be voting for Biden. And quite frankly, if you don't vote for Biden, that's putting Trump in the White House when the race is this close.
Very good. Excellent show. I totally enjoyed it. I'm sure our listeners are going to really enjoy it as well. Dr. Lotkin, our listeners can give their input into our show, can't they?
Yes, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know your impressions of the debate, the campaign in general, and quite frankly, any other issue you'd like us to talk about. We want to know what you're thinking. So you can go to the Carnivore Radio Facebook page, messages there. You can also go to xvadio.com/connect. Let us know what you're thinking there. And of course, you can catch every episode of Carnivore Bites at xvadio.com, the Carnivore Radio website, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
Thank you, Dr. Lotkin. See you next week.
No,
we won't. Will we?
We're actually on vacation next week for the 4th of July holiday. We will see you in 2 weeks.
Very good. I almost had an Uncle Joe moment. Thanks for correcting me. See you in 2.
We'll see you then.